Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to Waterhouse Vibes. Today we have with us a special guest, a Sister Jennifer Garnatz. But before we get to her, there's some other important news that we want to highlight. I am Michael Nita, your host, alongside Brother John Arton, the man who is our internal critic, a man who always brings something to the table. As we go down in this broadcast, as we continue, Brother John will introduce the poet, the special guest, Sister Jennifer, coming to us from out of Germany, right? A Jamaican poet living in Germany. I'm going to leave that to John and move on to what's happening in the news now. I believe all Jamaicans today are elated because Marcus Garvey was pardoned by President Biden today. That's good news on that front.
Patrick MC Carthy, WhatsApp audio.
Patrick. All right, me know the broadcast. Cool. Yeah. As I was saying, Jamaicans all over the world are excited today because our homegrown prophet Marcus Garvey was pardoned by President Biden, and that is good news. But while we celebrate the good news, let us not forget that today is 19 days since the start of the new year, and already the Jamaican police have killed 13 Jamaicans. That is the murders rate at the present time. Jamaican police has killed 13 Jamaicans, which leave us to ask the question, when will this come to a end? When will the police develop new methods to deal with situation when confronted? According to the Commissioner of Police and the Minister of National Security, the police should not back down when confronted. However, last month, there was a situation in Mandeville where a guy had a mental crisis, chopped his father, and the police went in to resolve this thing, eventually shooting the young man with the mental health, which raised a number of questions. Why is it that the police couldn't have used a different approach, even shoot this young man in his foot or something to deal with the situation? That is something we have long argued for, that the police be equipped not just with guns, but training in mental health, how to deal with mental health crisis. It doesn't seem as if there's any interest in that regard. Another item in the news is the election campaign. Now the election starts in Jamaica and there's a lot of accusation going across the board. From internal PMP corruption to all sort of stuff. And it leaves us to ask questions. This is the start of the new year, and what will happen? What is going to happen, because the election is due sometime this year, and the way the JLP and the PMP behaving, I'm not sure. But that discussion is for a later date, we're still early. What I want to do today is pass over the introduction role that I usually play. I'm going to ask Brother John Arton to introduce our guest. Brother John, over to you.
Thank you, brethren and sistren. I don't know if let me look to see if first of all, I'd like to introduce our special guest. Her name is Jennifer Garnatz. and she's living in Germany. As you can tell, she's well, I don't know if you can just look and tell, but she's Jamaican. Jennifer was actually born in Lucy, and at a very early age, at 4 years old, her mother took her to Kingston and left her with her father, who at the time was a single hotelier in Kingston. Her mother then migrated to England with the stepfather, and her father placed her in boarding schools and in private homes throughout her childhood until she graduated from Convent of Mercy Alpha Academy High School. She then pursued a secretarial course at UTEC. At the time it was called CAST, as all of us would remember. Throughout her school life, she was always instilled in her by the father of the importance of good education, stating that whatever you put in your head, no man can take that away from you, unquote. Sadly, her father was murdered in August 1973. All of us here should recognize that period in Jamaica's history. In 1972, Jennifer began her professional career as a legal secretary, working with one of the more distinguished lawyers, a QC, David Muirhead, and later resigned after only 1 year to accept an executive secretary, assistant PR manager, and personnel coordinator at Skyline Hotel in Kingston, now called the Courtly Manor Hotel. In 75, which is just a few years later, she accepted an offer to work as social secretary at Jamaica House, where she assumed duties as personal assistant to Mrs. Beverly Manley, First Lady at the time. And there she connected with the cultural world in a great way. In addition, her duties include functioning as acting manager, secretary, treasurer for the non-profit Jamaica House Garden Theatre, now Louise Bennett Garden Theatre, and Ronnie Williams Entertainment Center, which were founded by Mrs. Manley through fundraising from the private sector coordinated by Jennifer. In 78, she returned to the hotel industry, taking up a job as assistant sales manager and PR manager at Trelawney Beach Hotel. While there, she noticed that the North Coast was heavily overrun, to use her words, with German tourists who had started coming to Jamaica on charter flights. Realizing that the hotel industry had no knowledge of the German language, Jennifer made a spontaneous decision to quit her job and travel to Germany to study the language intensively. She subsequently made a change in her visa status, learning German shorthand, and located in Hamburg, and resumed an office career working as an executive assistant until she retired in 2019. Her love for Jamaica is unwavering. She returns regularly on vacation and recently spent an entire year in Jamaica between June 2003 and 2023 and June 2024. I must say that I went home to Jamaica in April, and we connected at that time. Also, she reminded me that we met at a Byron Lee event in the early 80s. That was when I first met her, and we've remained friends until today. Creative writing has always been her passion. In the 70s, she co-wrote songs with Harold Butler. The late and beloved Leone Forbes was first to introduce her to her poems to the public, reading them with background music on her radio show. Jennifer writes on practically all themes. Her father's murder made her a deeper person. So many of her poems are about death and social issues, not just about romance. Jennifer has presented her poems live on stage in various countries, including Germany, Toronto, Chicago, New York. She is featured at the legendary New Ryokan Poets Cafe recently in 2023 and 24. During a one-year stay in Jamaica, she presented poems live at diverse venues in Kingston, including the monthly Jamaica Poetry Society events held at the Etnomandi College Auditorium. She also is a regular member of various international Zoom online poetry societies based in India, Toronto, US, and Jamaica. She has published a poetry collection called Romantically Erotic Deadly Spiritual Society, available only via online bookstores like Amazon, Ex Libris, Barnes and Noble, and deals with various aspects of human emotions, spirituality, death, societal issues, and nature. Her poems have also been printed in various anthologies. So that is Jennifer. I believe that time will be allowed, Jennifer, for people to ask you questions. I have a few myself, and other people will have questions to ask you. And I believe, based on what Jennifer told me, folks, she's going to read two poems, and then the floor will be open to questions about her background and some of the things that I may have covered in her bio. Go ahead.
Okay, my first poem deals with a problem that's happening in Jamaica and worldwide. I've titled it No, No, No. No, no, no. I said no. It means I don't want you to say or do what I don't want to hear or feel. It means I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to kidnap me. I don't want you to rape me. By no means, I don't want, I won't go, I don't have, I don't like, I don't desire something, someone. No is not a sly secret synonym used by girls, by women, secretly expecting boys or men to believe they really mean yes. Allowing males to forcibly touch, kiss, caress, undress her without redress. You not accepting her no would make her heart full of dread, her body, mind go emotionless dead. Her no is not a trigger to increase your erectile ego, nor cause you anger. It simply means stop. Let your fingers drop. Immediately quit your evil thoughts, your evil actions of using force to take her as your source of carnal pleasure. While you abuse her, rob her privilege to decide whom she may allow to reap her benefits. You are unfit to touch any part of her skin. Don't commit such a grave sin. A female no simply means no. It's not a secret code for a hidden yes agenda. So her body she'll never surrender. A female no only means no. Don't ever do what God forbids you not to do.
That's
My,
Go ahead.
my second poem is titled Shedding My Past. Shedding my fear. My past is not your past. My future is not yours to be shared. You loved me, yet mocked me, abused me, defiled me. Let the truth be told. I struggled mentally to shed my fear. My courage emerged from deep within, bringing my defiance along, healing my body, my soul. Now I am standing strong.
Two wonderful points.
Thank you.
Two wonderful poems, and I think the question would be, what caused you to move in? You started out working in the legal profession, okay, and
Yes.
organizing social events and what have you. What caused you to move into that direction? Poetry, and also, could you say something about the topic that you're speaking to? No, no, no. I get it that you're talking to men. That they
Yes.
should so. So can you say some more on that for me? In terms of
Okay. The No, No, No was written after reading in the newspaper about the kidnapping, raping, killing of women in Jamaica. And that is what that inspired me to write that one. You know, I was also particularly cut up about children being murdered, children being raped. And behind that, I just had to say, you know, I want to talk to the men to tell them, just stop it. You know what I mean? Just stop. Sex may be a sweet thing to have between couples, but it's not something for you to be killing women for, killing girls for, you know, because I mean, just leave them, wait till you get an adult. You don't have to be rushing into this, because not all the crimes are committed by adult men. A lot of them are committed also by teenagers.
John, any question?
Yes. Talk to me a little bit about how your father influenced you, and also your experience. I was particularly impressed with the fact that you went to Alpha, and before the show started, I had commented about the fact that Alpha is famous for the music, creating musicians, and we are about music. Waterhouse has a tradition of what's the word that I would use, Mikey? I don't want to say DJ. It's even before DJ.
Waterhouse is a cultural mecca with a lot of those artists you see behind me on my photos. All of those guys are from Waterhouse. And this the drummer. You see that man standing with the upright guitar? That's Lloyd Brevitt. He's from Waterhouse. In the other corner is King Tubby's. There's Beanie Man. So it's Sly Dunbar, rhythm Sly Robbie from Waterhouse. It's a rich cultural history. Not only that, but on the screen you're seeing Miss Fraser, Shelley Ann Fraser, the
Yeah.
track star. She's also from Waterhouse. You know, Waterhouse has a rich cultural history. So, John, you were saying you can continue.
No, I asked my two questions. So
Okay.
Okay.
My question, the topic of today's discussion is about you growing up as a woman in Jamaica. Can you share some of your experience, because you're not in Jamaica anymore?
Okay, John, I'll go on to that, but John asked me something about my father.
Yes.
Okay, my parents weren't married, like a lot of that in Jamaica. So, you know, after my mother gave me to my father, he put me into a boarding school. And then as the years go by, he put me to live with private people. And then when I started going to high school, he put me in Alpha boarding school. It had a boarding school at that time. But sadly, after 3 years of living in the Alpha boarding school with all those girls from different backgrounds, different races, and even we had even some foreigners there, some Latin American girls who had come to Jamaica to learn English, and also from Haiti at the boarding school. So it was one big happy family, really. And that was the happiest time of my life, actually living at boarding school, even though the nuns were very strict. But they were fair in their judgment, they were fair in their treatment of you. You know, not like what you might see in some films with the mistreatment of children. And so Alpha boarding school was really the happiest place of my life. My father, because he was so busy, you know, he didn't have really much time for us. I have a bigger brother, but he's from a different mother. My father was married once and his wife died less. So whenever someone told him they were pregnant, he took over the financial responsibility. There's something I'm going to say that actually I've never said to anyone outside of my family before, but I'll say it here. I should never have been born. Because I say it because we're talking about what happens in Jamaica. My father is actually my mother's uncle. So it was one of these cases of an elder relative forcing himself on a younger woman. And sadly, that situation happens in Jamaica a lot, because a lot of the abuse on women in Jamaica or on girls in Jamaica are not only committed by strangers, but a lot of it is committed by relatives, whether it be fathers, husbands, brothers, you know, cousins, whatever. And I don't know how we're gonna get out of that happening in Jamaica. You know, it's a man thing where they think if they see a nice looking girl, then they want to have her, you know. And how can we really change the mindset of men? You know, one good thing I can say about my father is that my father took me when I was 4 because my mother wanted to migrate with my stepfather, and he took over the financial responsibility. So it showed that he regret what he had done, and he wanted to give my mother the freedom so that she can get on with her life, you know. And he made sure I go to church every Sunday, made sure I went to the library every week so that I could instill in my mind all the necessary information that was needed for me to sort of become an educated person, you know. And he also made sure, he was super strict. I was only allowed out 4 times a year: Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Independence Day, and New Year's Day, and only to these 10 o'clock matinees in Ward Theatre or Regal Theatre, never in the evenings. My brother wasn't allowed to bring his friends home because my father didn't want any of them to interact with me, you know. So I tried to understand my father with the strictness, but I tried to understand and realize that he was really only trying to protect me from boys or men like himself. You know, he said, until you're 21, you're not to go on dates. So my father was murdered 6 weeks before my 20th birthday. So up until that time, I lived by his rules. I never even kissed a guy before my 20th birthday. You know, really just did what he wanted. And I think that a lot of parents, you know, should also try to sort of teach their children that, you know, okay, you're now 14 years old. You don't really have to go out and be having sex, because it didn't hurt me to wait that long. You know, and we need to sort of instill in our girls and our boys that respect. I think the schools in Jamaica need to start teaching boys. They should sort of have some sort of once a week, once a month class where boys are taught from the age of 12 about respecting their sisters, respecting other girls, respecting women, so that when they leave university, you know, that will sort of be ingrained in their heads, so that when they go into the workplace, they don't sort of be harassing women. you know, we have a problem and we need to just sort of try to solve this problem in some way.
Yes, we do have a problem because in news, this week news, a 32-year-old man was charged for murder, killing a 16-year-old girl who was pregnant. So we
Yes.
definitely has a problem in Jamaica. But I think the problem has to do with the distribution of power in the country. How power is distributed. You know, once you're a man, you're entitled to certain things. A woman, she struggled all the way. So, given what's happening now and your experience, how do you see the future? This government seems to be on a different path.
Okay, I don't think it has anything to do with the government, because it has to do with the mindset of our males. So parents need to be installing this thing of respecting one another, because the government is not going to change it. Even if you get a government that says, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do that, as long as in the home, this respect is not there, this teaching about respect is not there, it's never going to happen. So it's not the government, I would say it's not for the government alone to deal with it. That's a home thing. That's a personal home thing that we need to deal with. Jamaica has this thing where the cost of living is so high that every young girl, I wouldn't say every young girl, that many young girls and even young women feel they need to find a man who earns money so that this man can give him the financial things that they need. And that is what leads to this. You know, because why is a 16-year-old girl going out with a 39-year-old man? Was it the man who approached her? Why didn't she say yes?
You mean
know, if
no?
he had, why didn't she say no? Yeah. You know, is it because the man was offering her financial rewards? You know, so
but Jenny, in the 70s, we had Michael Manley who created a sort of atmosphere in which respect, love, and all that were very. It was right out there, you know, the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But since 1980, things change in Jamaica. It's more the men become more aggressive. Everything changed, and I am.
And the
Sometimes
cost of living changed too.
yes.
So
So
everybody's running after money.
and you think that is what is driving much?
That is part of it. That is part of it.
John, what do you have to say about this? In terms of the strength that you know, patriarchal relationship and
it's a combination of factors. But what I forget the term when someone in the family is having sex, because I mentioned this before. I recall dating a woman, and all of the uncle and the cousin, you know, the older men in the family used to take turns to have sex with her.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it's not it's a very powerful thing. There is a certain attitude in the Caribbean, I will say, because I've lived both in Jamaica and in Bahamas, where there is a strong desire that passing christening picnic first, which means you know, father, uncle, brother have sex with the girl child before she get exposed to outside people. I forget the term when you have sex in the family like that. It's not just sex. There's a term for it, and it just slipped me out of my head.
You're not speaking of incest?
Incest, that's correct. We have a very high percent of that. No, The other thing that multiplies it is the power, is money. Because women don't, there's not an equality with income among men and women in any society, even in the Western world. I mean, it's very common that a woman will approach you and say, if you can take care of her. What does that mean? That means that I'm going to pay for favors. So in Jamaica, where it's a very high, a high percent of women are not working, work as, domestic, work in restaurant, work as waiter, low income jobs where they are serving and relating to people, to men. There is a high relationship to, where a man, he might be married, he might have family. My daughter explained this to me, that it's very prevalent even today, where the idea is you can have a woman on the side. In Jamaican, good top-notch talk is a mistress. Somebody on the side of the wife, and you and because your income can sustain it, and you're happy to do it. So I agree that money is a big factor. It cannot be legislated. It has to be a product of an equal relationship, gender equality, and gender equality not just in before the law, but in terms of opportunity and income. Now, as women become more internalized, or what's the word? Become more part of the mainstream, getting jobs, have a career, go to university, earning a more commanding income, then that among those women, I think there is a difference. Those women do not necessarily look to a man for everyday survival, but we have a large number of, I mean, when I went to school, high school that is, there was a large number of boys who learn about sex from their helper. It's not a secret. We can talk it openly. And the reason for that is just the fact that your home, your situation, you come home early, the parents don't reach home yet, the helper is there, might be a young girl, and therefore, one-on-one make two. Well, in this case, make three, because many of them, of course, get pregnant. So it's a real problem. And I think Manley's measures, while it abolish bastard, remember, it did not speak to how to abolish, to create a more gender equal society. It's very challenging. And we know it's challenging because in countries like Scandinavia, I was watching a documentary in Norway and Switzerland, which are highly rated in terms of gender equality. They have a big problem with this issue of abuse, and I'm sure in Germany it's the same. So it's the last frontier. I like to say that before a man will be able to, a woman will be able to become, a black man will become president before a woman become president, because is a woman, is not just the color, is also a woman. And that challenge is a big challenge. So somebody asked some questions. I don't know how you're going to treat with them in the comments. Mikey, you want to look at those?
I'm
But
going to do that now.
I have things to add, Jennifer, to what I'm saying. It's a big challenge, and the concern I have, since I'm on that topic, is why is there no Me Too movement? Just to use an expression, why is there no Me Too movement? And why? Let me give you an example. I work when I left university. I went into teaching, and after I went into teaching, I went into the private sector, and I worked many years in the private sector, maybe 30 years after the classroom. And there's no question that in Jamaica, the way this patriarchal system run is, and Jamaica have beautiful women, so it is very easy to see and to know that a girl working, at a modest level as an assistant, even the cleaning people and so on, is not subject to pressure, to put it mildly, from males who are earning. They are the boss, they are running the departments, etc. It's inevitable in the way our culture go, because it's accepted in our culture for that to be so. And the only way it's going to stop is to have some way of women need to have a voice and to come out and say, no mean no, to use your poem, and also to take some of these cases to court. The CEO of a company, or it's very commonplace. I think it's standard in Jamaica for there to be that culture where the CEO, where the president or the CEO stand up against it. Maybe it's not as done, but one company I can remember, I will not call any names, it was everybody, including the boss, had a woman in there that worked there, and it was the standard thing. So the question is, why is there no such type of movement in Jamaica? And nobody sing about it, even in the culture we have. I don't know of any. Well, my girl there, what's the name?
Africa.
Eh?
Africa.
No, the other one that sing before her. All our song is on this theme of, she came to Bahamas when I was there. That's the first time I saw her perform. But Africa did as well.
Yeah. No, daddy, don't touch me. With a song.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And she
But
said
there's another one that do a song like all of her songs, man.
I know, but I can't recall the name now.
Yeah. But she have a good set of music songs on that theme, and she draw a good crowd in terms of the women.
Yeah.
But let's open it up.
Janet, what's your reaction to what John just said?
Well, I agree with him, but at the same time, I can remember when I used to work as a secretary, that even the business associates of my boss would come into the office, and when they saw me, they would want to try and date me, and saying stupid things like married men can do it better when I turn them down. So.
Certainly, this is a deep-rooted problem that we face in Jamaica. And how do we, as I put a question, a comment here from one of the listeners, how do we teach boys have power over their penis by keeping it inside to be used with discretion.
Well, that's what I was talking about. It has to start from in the home. You start teaching them about it from they're about 12 years of age, and keep hammering it into their heads until they leave university or finish high school. It's something you're just going to have to keep hammering about respect and waiting with sex and everything. But people are not going to wait anymore. That's the problem. The hormones are going too high.
So where that leave us?
That leaves us with the parents, the mothers, particularly the mothers, who can talk to their boys about how to treat girls. So that when these boys become men, they know how to treat women.
I just post a comment from Elaine Turner there. Some mothers, please, for God's sake, please stop introducing your daughters to men for your own gains.
Well, that's a serious one.
Yeah, this is a serious one but I'm wondering if the base, the economic condition of these women and men is not driving them, if that not playing a part in all this abuse and oppression, or is it just the structures?
Well, then why are the men using their bank accounts to sort of molest young girls? So there again, it goes to teaching the boys how to behave when they become men.
And how are we doing on that front? Because everything right now, the culture is in a way, my sister. I don't know what's going to happen, but we have a culture, the dancehall culture, even in the music. You hear it in the music, you know.
So I was going to say that problem exists across the board, because it's the same thing with the rap music, the rap culture here, and the what you call it, you know, some of those videos when you watch them. I remember one, I won't call the artist name, but them have the girl them, you know that thing you put round dog?
Yeah.
The
leash. Them have the girl them a leash round the girl neck, all 4 girl, and them have 4 leash, and them a walk, and you know it's highly symbolic, and it's the truth is, let's talk about what would be needed to bring about a change with this, because I agree with Jennifer when she said government alone cannot do it. This is one of the deepest things to change. So we talk about education from elementary level, from a youth reach 10 and 11 and 12. There should be programs that go up with age. So education is a big area, curriculum. We talk about the church, where the pastor preach, but that's all it is. Now, how we get that into the home, into the society, at the community level, without there being an empowered woman? That when the woman is not empowered, it becomes almost hopeless. It have to come from the woman. And there's a girl on Facebook, I don't remember her name now, but I told her the other day that she's a Jamaican, and she's constantly writing on this theme about relationships and abusive nature of the men, and how them suck out your strength, not just your money, but you know, it's a big challenge to find men who are respectful, sufficiently respectful that they can deal with women and not only want to abuse them. So there has to be a movement. And I remember in the Manley period, there was this sistering. Well, it was sistering is an example, but there was an agency that had to do with women's rights.
Women's Bureau.
Eh?
Women's Bureau.
Women's Bureau. Yeah. But even that, it can help by bringing to light some of the issues and having a discussion about how, especially at the community level, and legislation, it's hard to, legislation has to be commensurate with where the people feel that it is going to be meaningful. You can't just legislate no sex with girls under 15 or something like that. It has to be related to what is feasible and measurable and possible.
Well, if there's going to be legislation, then it should have the age of 18. Minimum age 18.
I think it exists.
Anything under 18, illegal.
Right, it exists now, but there is no, in Jamaica,
enforcement.
Age of consent. Yeah, it's not enforced. It can. If police were to enforce that, they would be busy fighting that and not fighting
crime.
Regular crime.
There is an NGO in Jamaica. I found it on the internet, called Woman Inc. And it is Jamaica's longest existing temporary shelter for females and girls. And they sort of help those who have been abused. But they also offered various services. But they only exist 2 at the moment, one in Kingston and one in Montego Bay. And they are funded by private donations, company donations. And I think, we need to probably get we need to get more companies in Jamaica to support them so that they can open a branch in every parish in the country. And then they could also do things like sort of dialogues with parents, and dialogues with people who are having problems. Because they're doing something now, but they can't also help. And according to them, it's not only women and girls who are suffering from abuse. You also have boys also suffering from physical abuse, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So the society is totally messed up at the moment.
I'm pretty much sure, although we are on this topic, I'm pretty much sure that it's not just sexual abuse happening in Jamaica.
No. We're having the physical abuse of beatings. I remember I used to get lots of beatings from my father, because in Jamaica, parents tend to beat you if they think you do something wrong, not necessarily because you do something wrong. I remember when my brother and I were laughing, they would say, is what the kiki, yak, going on? What is happening? And the thing is this, so you would get beatings for any little thing just because they think you do something wrong. Now, I'm not saying parents shouldn't hit their children, but then it should be justified. And furthermore, it shouldn't be using brutal force as if they're punching an adult. I remember going to school with wales on my arms. The teacher saw them, but the teacher never once called my father in and say, why are you brutally beating your daughter like that?
Wow.
It's a thing as if you're just looking away.
Because,
and I was always embarrassed when I had to go to school and that thing was showing up on my arms.
Well, that reminds me of an incident. A friend of mine whose husband, she's divorced him now. I mean, she used to get beaten if men look on her while she's walking with him on the street.
Wow, that's extreme.
No, I just show you. It shows you the level of abuse,
Yeah.
Because him quiet while him is uncomfortable, and if you marry a pretty girl or a nice looking woman, and I mean, unless you're ugly, somebody look upon her. Imagine, I when she first told me this, I could not believe it. But that is an extreme example.
But it does happen.
Yeah, that happens. The insecurity. Again, it relates to the gender thing and the gender role and the feeling that women are part of your property and not a human being equal with you in the relationship. It's something that you own, that you take care of, and you know.
Yeah.
So
A lot of physical abuse is going on, but people are also too ashamed to report it because they know even if they were to tell the police, nothing is going to happen.
Yeah, no, there's no channel for it to be, and that's why it's getting so bad. I mean, it bad in need to. So, the question is how do you get this going at the community level? Because that is where it is probably most needed, but technically it's a challenge until women become awakened, for want of a better word, as a collective, and legislation, social pressure, etc., is applied to solve. This problem is a deep problem. And why I say that is a last frontier is because it go on in many countries that you would never think. It's bad.
well, you heard about the man in France who drug his wife and have 50 odd men rape her.
That's right.
It's not just unique to Jamaica, but the point.
That's right.
But what I'm worried about, you see, we talk about laws and what have you, but I think this thing is an age-old problem, and the only way we can address it, I firmly believe we have to tear down the system. We have to put in place a new system, a new framework that empowers women, put women at the center of development of the society. But it seems like it's just the emphasis is on creating conditions for men rather than creating conditions for women so they can empower themselves. Despite the progress, because the data I saw recently, more women are graduating from the university than men.
Correct. Throughout the Western world, women are now doctors, engineers. When I did a study back in the late 80s, women were like 25% of the engineering faculty at UWI. And today that's not the case anymore. It's 50-50 or even
It's higher than it's much more than 50-50.
Right. Women are doing better than men in many universities. I mean, in many disciplines where men used to be the dominant force. But what happened is that despite you see, that is a part of that progress. The other part of it is how it is embodied in society, in everyday life. And this is where it becomes a big challenge, especially in a poorer country. In an underdeveloped country.
And therefore?
No, I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that in a third world environment, we don't use that term anymore, but in countries like ours, where there's such a large number of, women who are not working in very low jobs, low income.
Like housekeepers.
Housekeeper, waiter, even security guards. No context.
Yeah.
They are at the mercy of men because they cannot live based on their own salary. They're below the minimum wage or the livable wage. It still remains a challenge because it allows men to have the handle and the woman hold the blade.
Yeah, that's true.
So where we go from here. You know, we have the problem. We know it's been happening outside, within and outside of the home. Where do we go from here?
Well,
Is
Go
my
from,
position on this is like everything else, that we should embody it in our people's manifesto. What are the things that we think are necessary? You know, what legislation, not, I mean, legislation is only one thing. Education.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it take a nationwide program to re-educate the police, to re-educate teachers, the school system, curriculum, and the churches, which is a powerful force at the community level.
Jeanette, Jennifer, you're in Germany. What is it like there in terms of this particular issue?
in terms of this particular issue, you also have the problem here. It's not that wide. It's bigger in Spain than in Germany.
Bigger in
Spain,
Spain?
bigger in Spain. The women in Spain have faced more. There are lots of abuse going on
Machismo.
over there.
There's more machismo.
Yeah. Yes. In Spain. Yes.
How do they
The problem.
how do they deal with that issue? How do they address it? Through laws,
Well,
improvement?
they have little organizations that deal with the women, where the women can go and report and they get comfort and things like that. And furthermore, there are also more women's shelter here for women who are suffering from problems, which
Yeah,
we don't have enough of that in Jamaica. We only
yeah,
have this NGO with 2 places in the island. So I think this NGO Women's Inc., they need to get more support from the, well, it's an NGO, non-governmental, but still, they need to get more support from the private sector.
it's a big thing.
Willing.
The shelter thing is fundamental, because a big it's like a trap. Because preaching to a woman who is in an abusive relationship, without an ability to go somewhere and be safe.
And that's why I'm saying we need a place like that in every parish.
Yeah.
So this Woman Inc. NGO, you can look it up on Google. There you get the contacts, and they have a contact formula on their website. They just need a bit more support.
Well, they don't take.
They can help more people.
Yeah. Any questions coming up on the among the comments? Because I see quite a few.
Yeah, I see some here.
Because it's only 5 o'clock.
Yeah, also I see this comment here from Dawn. Also, women must know their self-worth. Is that an issue? The lack of self-worth?
Yes, and that's why, again, it goes back to this education at home from the time they are girls. To know, you must say no, no, no.
Sorry, can I just add a thing? I gave a talk to Rotary, and I used my growing up as a boy relative to how girls are brought up. And it's so different in terms of what girls are taught versus what boys are taught growing up. And therefore it's a fundamental difference, not just the concept of empowerment, but the rights, the way boys are taught to speak up, whereas women are taught to be timid. Speak when spoken to. They don't say that to you, But that's how, when you have Dolly, when you play Dolly, this is all part of the acclimatization that women go through, different from men.
Yeah.
We get to play outside. Woman,
But
don't you know
God,
what she tell you? When she growing up, her fat 4 times for the year, she could go outside. You ever hear anything like that? That's a model right there.
Well, there's a question here. Jennifer, can you respond to
yeah,
this question?
yes.
Yeah,
At your leisure, please play a bit more on your. Oh, my second poem.
yeah.
All right, let me look for it. My second poem was then the one which says, "Shedding My Fear."
Yeah,
Okay, in this poem, a lot of women, if they're in a relationship where they're not happy, where they're being abused or defiled, they cower inside themselves and they take everything that's being dished out to them, and feel they must accept it because they're either afraid of if they open them out, they might get a box. So what I'm saying in this poem is that you must go into your mind and ask yourself, what do you really want? Do you really want to stay in this relationship? If you want to stay in this relationship, do you think you have the means of sort of convincing this person to become a better person? And that's where you need to get this, you need to struggle within yourself, asking yourself these questions, and then you have to make a decision. Do I stay in this abusive relationship for the rest of my life, or do I gather the courage and move out of it? Even though you're being defiant and you know that you wanting to move out, you might get another box or two, but still don't turn back, don't stay put, get out of the relationship. Too many women stay in relationships even though they're not happy just because they want to have this tag, I am somebody's wife, I have a man in my house. There's no shame in being single.
Yeah, but
or being a divorcee.
yeah,
You
the
know,
problem
I
is
mean,
not the single part, but the money part.
don't well, that's the thing. Don't let money rule you, which is why my father said, whatever you put in your head, nobody can take away from you. So if you've got an intelligent head, then you go out and find a job, even if it means just doing something menial while you're looking around for something better.
that is easily said than done because
No, but that's where you need the strength. That's where you need your inner strength to move forward. Without that inner strength, you can't move forward.
but much of it
Even if you have money in your bank account, because it doesn't only happen to poor women, it happens also to the rich women.
That's right. That's a good point.
yeah, but the fear, how do we encourage them to get over the fear? Because that is
You
all
can't.
that is always a problem.
Yeah, that is something that they're just going to have to get themselves. Nobody can help you to get rid of your fear. You can only talk to somebody and give them encouragement. But the thing is if they're not talking to anybody about their problems, there is nobody to give them encouragement, because a lot of them don't talk about their problems. They just wallow in it.
So probably what we need is a broad women's movement, eh?
Well, a broad women's movement, or places like this Woman Inc. NGO, which also gives advice to people.
Well, I'm inviting two other guests to the conversation. Another sister, Maxine, and brother Herb. Herb,
Boy, Maxine, me think I can't recognize you, but Lord of mercy.
all right, let's not diver. Herb and Maxine, we have with us a poet, Jennifer Grant, Jamaican, now
Yes.
living in Germany, and we are talking about woman oppression. So I guess you guys heard the conversation so far.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any reaction to what you heard so far.
You said Jennifer Grant?
No,
Garnatz.
not Jennifer
About
Grant.
Garnatz.
Garnatz,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ja, guten Tag, Jennifer.
Guten Tag, wie geht es dir? Was
Wie
du
geht's
dort
heute?
gelernt?
Ah,
hast
look,
du Deutsch gelernt?
You see when black man learn a little something, him run gone now.
Yeah.
Go on like you can talk German.
well, Jennifer was in the U.S. Army. I spent almost 5 years in Germany.
In which
I was
city? In
in-
Frankfurt?
No, further south. I was in Kaiserslautern. I lived on
Okay,
Ramstein,
okay, yeah.
on the Ramstein Air Force Base.
Okay, that's where the major base is.
Yeah. I lived outside for about a year until they moved me onto the base. I
So
was
if,
in what was it? Morlauten, a little
Okay.
town outside of Kaiserslautern.
Okay, I am up north in Hamburg.
Hamburg. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got friends who were there. And I still do have German friends over there, and some Americans who are stationed there too. So
Okay.
yeah,
do you
listen,
have a reaction?
I had put something. Thank you, Lynn. In what role does your religion play in establishing
Okay.
your values and maintaining one's virginity until marriage? Does it still exist? Is this unheard of in Jamaica? Because
No.
I'm Roman Catholic, and I can tell you, they in the old days, when you went to the Alpha Academy, Alpha Junior, Alpha Infant, these were things that the Sisters of Mercy maintained until I went to the Jesuits over St. George's College.
Yeah.
You know, and I think things fell apart over there.
It doesn't necessarily only have to be religion, because as I said, since my father was super strict and he told me you don't date until you're 21, yeah, I just abide by his rules. Whereas a lot of people, even if their parents are strict, they still go and do things behind their back. You know, like say the man is saying, I'm going to a girlfriend's house, and then actually they're going somewhere else and the girlfriend will back up for them. Well, I never did any of that behind his back stuff. So when he died shortly before my 20th birthday, I never kissed the guy. I was still a virgin because I just wanted to do what he says. And naturally, religion plays a role, but more important for me was listening to what my father said and obeying his rules.
Good daughter. Come, used to run out.
Well, yeah. Well, you're a boy. You were a boy, so it was different. My brother ran out and went out.
Hey, we get beaten if him find out. We get beaten, you stay there.
Well, you know, Jennifer, did you ever have anyone that your father admired, an athlete or somebody involved in politics, or you know, that would come to the house and you know would more or less penetrate his defenses? While you never had that kind of. I see Maxine smiling. Okay, Maxine, you want to fess up?
Maxine?
I'm trying to catch I wasn't here for the presentation. So I'm just trying to catch from the comments and what Herb was talking, what was the general theme in relation to women. Seems patriarchy seems to be the overview, meaning the religion is patriarchal, the society is patriarchal. So, but I don't know if you could give me a specific as to how or what the role of the woman was being described as, or, you know, the challenge of the woman in terms of the presentation that is inviting these comments and so on.
Well, I presented 2 poems dealing with women abuse.
Oh, abuse of women.
Yes, I presented 2 poems dealing with women abuse, and then from there we went on to talking about, you know, what can we do to help the boys or the men to not sort of abuse women. But then I also said that there are also boys who are also suffering from physical abuse. So we weren't only dealing with sexual abuse, we're also dealing with physical abuse.
Okay. So basically it's the role of women in this, well, certainly from Jamaica society, being majority descendants of slaves, where the abuse of women was inculcated from that, and then some, what do you call it now? Some new rules were now brought in by the religion, meaning so we went from the abuse of the slavery system over hundreds of years, and then what seemingly freed us in emancipation was the Bible and the religion that also, kept the women in a certain position. And even when as Black people we got the right to vote, it took a while for the women to exercise that right, because of the social structures of the women, So the women, we have to fight, fight for these rights and fight to educate our children, especially our sons, and fight to educate the men around us, I guess. You understand? By, I think, understanding ourselves and our position, those who can, you know what I mean? Who punch through and, recognize that this is, if you do the same job, you're going to be paid less. If you do, there's so much inequities that are built in. Well, when I say same job, they don't even want you to work.
True.
To get paid. So, they always say that the women's struggle is synonymous with any other liberation activity that we're going on with, in the human space, that the women have to punch above their weight. We do have history. I don't know that I was studying the other day that there was history of a matriarchal societies. You still see societies where women play a superior role. And I think they said patriarchy came in because of certain economic or certain conditions that were occurring as the economy changed. I don't know if it's, they were relating it to that, because I'm trying to understand what changed or what makes a matriarchal society exist, separate and apart from a patriarchal. You know what I mean? And why they, why this? What are we aiming for? You know what I mean? Certainly in the Jamaica situation, we have a double strike with the slavery lifestyle, where the woman was just a breeder, and that was our value, to breed more slaves. You know what I mean? And then under the independence, emancipation, you had to, fit the Bible rule. And then as the workforce needed you more, your labor, then you have, an ability now to fight for your rights. I don't know. I mean, like, I think the man, you see relationships where the man and women live respectfully. They're generally very successful relationships, like a business. You know what I mean? Like you have two partners that are investing in the contract. You know, you have stability and so on and so forth. So I guess it's an ideal that societies should you know, approach, you know, advocate for. But in Jamaica, for sure, it's hard.
Possible.
It's a rough road. It's a rough road.
But I want you a question out. In the Bible, it said, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his slave." The ownership, the fact that that ownership is in the Bible, don't you think that this contribute to the abuse?
Yes, that's why I said we went from slavery to the Bible.
No, religion. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Because it is under, remember, when we came out of slavery, there's a church run the school, there's a church, you know, it was it's actually the church advocacy that created emancipation. When they said, no, these people are not slaves, they're not property, they're not chattel property, they're human beings. Because if you look at Psalm 68, they are mentioned there. So these white, what them name? I forgot, the pilgrims are what the name? Like they were the leading advocates for emancipation based on the fact that these are dealing with human beings. You understand? And created a moral space. And so even our advocates, our heroes, liberators were Black Baptist preachers, you know, using the on the platform that you're allowed in, the religious platform. You know, most of our advocates came out of that institution. So, you know, the role of the woman, unfortunately, you know, I don't know if it's because the Bible people come out of the desert. You know, they should have come from a more fertile space.
And you think this is what is influencing Jamaica? No, current atmosphere.
Definitely. It's awful. It's awful in Jamaica. It's awful. You know, when you see the gender laws, or when I say gender laws, when you see the laws that they're trying to pass to give women and the thing about it is not even poverty, because the rich women are abused just like the you know, they're not in any better treatment position. When you hear the complaints, or you know, I don't know what's happening in Jamaica. When I say I know what's happening, I don't know how necessary to talk about it at the moment, but I know what's happening. You also, I don't know what the ratio of men to women are either, you know, because that is another, you know, it's not an equality, like you have equal amount of men or equal amount of women. I think you may have more women than men. That then makes it very even more, you know, like a man has to have many women just by the nature of the economy. It's not even because you like them. You understand? You know, but the women aiming for the men as an economic way out. You understand? So then they will take any much, you know, they'll agree to have the man, not agree, but it's not even an agreement. It's something like the man is a way out, and then the man maybe ego or his sexual, I don't know what he equates sex with, like having sex with many people, maybe a power thing, you know, like a status.
But let me address that for a second, because they now recognize that there is a psychiatric explanation. And I think Tiger Woods is one of the more prominent names that have gone through the treatment for sexual addiction. I haven't heard of the psychiatric community in Jamaica or the Caribbean at large adapting that principle, that there's in fact a sexual addiction. Because in Jamaica, you have so many young women, especially, coming up pregnant for the big man or for somebody with money or some government person, right? In the crime task force, what we pushed for was having a DNA lab. They have the DNA lab, but it's not being utilized. When the lady who ran the children protection program in Jamaica, she's dead now. Damn shame, I can't remember her name. She pretty much would go and speak to kids in different communities, only to find out that predator in the community live in the same building, sometimes in the same house, right? And the problem was to separate them. They had a difficult time trying to separate them. In some cases where the Dons control the community and young girls had to be sent away from the community to the country or up to some community where the woman may work as a domestic or something like that. And then the young girls end up getting pregnant by some young man in that upscale community who saw an opportunity and took it. Or in some cases were, in fact, the young girl made the approach, made friends of the young men in these communities. And all of a sudden now you have the affluent family having to own a kid from a non-affluent community. So there's a clash of cultures. And that used to be in the old days when I listened to the earlier presentation. That used to be how things were, the clash of cultures. Now you have the young girls from the affluent community going down into the various towns, whether it's Trenchtown, Augusttown, Almond Town, Rosetown, and riding on around on the motorcycle with the so-called bad boys, gang members. So you have a complete breakdown, thanks to Michael Manley, where you used to have communities with high values and they hold the line against a lot of the sexual movement that's going on now. And it no longer is able to hold the line because the young people themselves are the ones engaging, right? The young people themselves are the one who have broken that taboo that Jennifer existed under. And now they have a different cultural approach to relations. They want to have relationship. They want to talk to the bad boys, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And famous case, the head of the Senate, his daughter had a baby for dog paw.
Yeah, dog paw.
Right? And so you see clearly where things are broken down. and for some reason that even caused families to have to move out of Jamaica to try and save
Their daughters.
the daughters. Yes,
Mhm.
you know, you do have a lot of people who have worked towards um, having protection for these young girls. And what we have now in the Caribbean, what we see is a high amount of child sex trafficking that is going on, not just against young girls, but against young boys also. You have remarkably, I work with Dolores Robinson, who's in Trinidad, and matter of fact, I was trying to see if I could influence her to give her to listen in. I hope she's listening. She's actually an advocate from Jamaica, but Robinson runs the abuse of women and LGBTQIA community in Trinidad. She is the person who stands up for women in Trinidad. But on the other hand, you have Dorothy Lightbourne, and the Lightburns are from Trinidad, and they exist in Jamaica.
Mhm.
She was Jamaica's first female attorney general, and she played a key role in advocating for women's rights and legal reforms. Her father was Bobby Lightburn, and I think he was
Mhm.
minister from St. Thomas or Portland. I can't remember.
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. Okay. You have Mariama Williams, a Jamaican feminist economist and activist, and she also contributed significant to the advocacy for women's economic rights and empowerment. Right. So the UN is involved. You have a UN Women Caribbean group, and then there's a Jamaicans Women Coalition as well. So you have different groups that are advocating for women, so women don't get into the situation where you got to do something that you don't want to do so you can survive. It's not that it's completely disappeared, but young boys are experiencing the same thing also. Um, Same thing as what the woman went through. I see Ronald B here talking about Roman Catholic priests and Christianity spread this disease of sodomy around the world. Well, Ronald, we have a problem in the Catholic Church, yes, and it's being stamped out even as we speak. All right. One of the guys who taught at St. George's College, where I was, he was scholastic, and then he was a brother, Talbot. Talbot later became a priest. Talbot is the guy that's featured in the movie that's about the Boston Archdiocese and why they had to relieve Cardinal Law of his responsibilities and send him to the Vatican, where they have him on the wraps at the Vatican. But Father Talbot molested no less than 80-something, 87 or something boys in Boston diocese. He had free reign in Jamaica. Nobody put him in check there. So we don't know what count he had in Jamaica that he molested.
Is it Father Albert? Father Albert?
Talbert.
Talbert or Albert?
No, Tal.
Okay.
Talbot.
No, man, I have the highest respect for Albert. We are called
Father
Albert.
Albert is good. Yeah.
Well, I tell you
You're
this.
progressive pastor that.
Yeah, but you want to go in a water house and ask the man them.
Oh yeah?
about Father Albert. Jennifer, you have heard the feedback.
That's
What
why
you
I
have to
don't
say?
belong to none of them, you know. I tell you.
And Jennifer, you have heard the different voices.
Yeah. Okay. For me, any priest, any Catholic priest who feels the desire to have sex should leave his profession, because the rule is, if you become a Catholic priest, you're a celibate. The moment you decide not to become a celibate, you should leave. You shouldn't be molesting boys. So I don't understand why is it that they have the urge, then they follow that urge, and they still remain priests. Those people belong in prison. They should not even be sent back to the Vatican. They should be sent straight to prison.
Yeah, but again, you go back, everything is psychiatric. No, everybody getting
Jesus.
treatment, right? Everybody gotta go to the shrink, and they're not jailing them like they should. They put them through this like a re-education program to try and change their ways.
They're not going to
I
change
think
their
it-
ways. They've decided to not remain celibate, so therefore they leave the priesthood. That's the simple solution for that.
But there are success stories of priests who fall in love with nuns
Yeah.
right there in Jamaica that I know of,
Mhm.
and then
Yes.
and they successfully leave and raise a family.
Exactly. That's why I
Yeah.
say once they have that urge, they should leave.
Yeah. Yeah,
John,
but it's gonna happen. The problem is it's gonna occur whether you Catholic priests or not. It occur with rabbis, it occur with
Mhm.
Anglicans, it occur with I mean, Anglicans are Catholics anyway, but
yeah,
Roman
but the question doing is how can you control? You're telling someone to suppress a natural urge,
Well, that's the thing.
and the Catholic, you're
Some
telling
people
someone.
can suppress it, but those who feel they can no longer suppress it, get out of the nunnery, get out of the convent, get out of the monastery.
But the thing about the Catholic priests is that they're not abusing young women. They're only abusing young boys.
No. It's
No, I'm just
oh,
saying in terms of celibacy is usually related to
To the boys.
man and
But
woman, right? So, when you say celibate, I'm interested. I had to be in the music industry when the gay lobby came against the dancehall music, saying it was murder music. We had to go into negotiations with the gay lobby at a high level because they were about to take Jamaica under tourism, everything. And when you in several meetings with them, I said, where did those laws come from that you want to have changed? I'm not being negative, I'm just being logical. So I said, something must have been happening in your society. For in 18, whatever year you put in these laws that you now want to change. But let us go back to the time why those laws were put in place. Something must have been happening in your society that you had to come and say, this is not correct, right? And it seemed to me, as I said to them, from the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, and maybe before, that there's certain behavior pattern, right, that arrives, and it usually arrives amongst the rich or amongst power. You understand? And because I said when you went into Greek society, it was, when I researched and how homosexuality was approved. the societies where it was approved. And when I researched it, I said the people who should be the most against homosexuality are women, because the homosexuality was like in the Greek sphere. It was like you were if you had sex with a boy, especially not even a man, but young boy, it has something to do with your intellect, with your, I mean, if you go and study these eras of where homosexuality, for instance, was approved, because they were approved straight through societies, and when it get crazy, then they put in the law. And then when it get whatever, then they put in another law and say, no, it's approved. And then when you approve it, it creates some, you understand, craziness that you have to put in the law again. You understand? So I sent them back to the classroom. I said, you go and explain to me. Because I said, Jamaica is a poor society where our homosexuality is abuse. You understand? With a rich man, it's a power abuse within our communities that create this, whatever is going on in Jamaica. And most of the violence that they were talking about, homosexual violence, was homosexuals themselves who don't want to be homosexuals, who are made into them through this, you know, prostitution or whatever, who just get enraged when we go and study, because we have to do all of this to back them up. You understand? And show them how behavior, you know, as Herb was saying, people need to go and study the psychology of sexual behavior. You understand? And what areas of the brain, like drugs and cocaine and those places where the addiction or whatever the hell it does to you, that then you have to put in a law and say, no, this cannot work. You know? So we're in a strange time with this, on top of everything else that we have, that we now have to be dealing with the gay rights situation, when we don't even figure out our heterosexual. You understand? We don't figure out our rights. That's what I'm saying. We don't figure out our regular rights about a man and a woman and how we're supposed to be functioning as a society. And you want to now come and impose a next area. It must send us crazy, because I have young girls that are exhibiting a LGBT lifestyle, simply because they don't want the abuse of the man. You understand? When we speak to them, they're engaging in you understand? They don't want to get pregnant. They don't want them. You understand? And so, this thing is not coming from no, but my bond is where it is coming out of the abuse. You understand? And so in engaging them, you know, like just like what Herb says, we need to be psychologically assessing these behavior patterns and be able to speak to people and say, you know, like, I don't know, we come from I watch a lot of movies, and as an African thinking person, I thought about polygamy. What is the origination of polygamy? Because I'm saying to myself, these people are, all right, are they polygamous? Is it coming from a learned polygamous? Like how I'm saying slavery. What is this polygamy thing? And I'm saying the polygamy has rules. You understand? It's not, even if it's polygamous or whatever it is, it's still a rule-based relationship. That means to say, if you're gonna take a next wife, you better can afford the first one. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like a free for all. You know, so even if I'm trying to figure it out from that way, I say, well, they have rules. This thing don't have no rules. You understand what I'm saying? So I guess, you know, right now it's very hard to think because now they're telling us that we don't have enough children and we need to go breed more. I don't know, you know what I mean? When they put these type of things out in the paper and the Jamaica population decline is a problem. And we need to have more children because we are not having enough children. And I'm like,
What?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the news coming out in Jamaica now.
Let us hear from John. I think he can. John,
I can perform magic.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, John, we understand you can resolve that problem in Jamaica.
So let us hear
Oh,
from John.
Lord. All
John,
right. Yes.
feedback to what you
I'm
have heard
listening
so
very
far.
keenly. I'm listening keenly, and I think that I'm very touched at the comment. I would say the what's the word I want? I'm touched by Maxine's concern, comment as to the state of the woman in Jamaica. That is what struck me when she talked first, right? It's a dread situation, for want of a better word, because of it's so oppressive compared to she travel around, she read, she go everywhere. It's oppressive bad. So let's start there. And also, just to give she touched on a very true point. There was a time in human history where societies were matriarchal. And that time was in the hunting days when there was no farming. Before farming became dominant in early society, during the hunting time, when the men them gone to hunt down wild boar or elephant or lion, whatever, the women, because of their role to preserve the family and to feed the family, whereas the men them gone to hunt and bring back the captured animal and feed the community, that was a matriarchal society in some cases. I'm not sure that in every situation. But when 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 men and women, when society became farming predominant, now we stabilized. We're gone to one place and we just have an era that we're growing and stuff. That is where the resurgence and dominance of patriarchal society became was dominant, and it remained dominant right through since that time. So it has to do with the relationship to the economic structure. It's not a one-on-one relationship. It's not a determination, but it's very much related to the relationship. Just like in today's society, the more women work, is the less women become independent and less patriarchal. So it's a very big indicator. The second point I will make is that when when propaganda given out, one of the dominant propaganda is that woman in abundance and man short. Everywhere you go in the world where them have abuse, them always start by saying woman in abundance and man short. Jamaica, just to give you real facts, the Statistical Research Department released in July, look it up when just to make sure. I look it up while we were talking. Show that in 2003 there were 1.42 women in Jamaica and 1.40 men. That is how it is in 99% of society. You might have some society, like if you go Ukraine, them kill off millions of people in World War II, mostly men, and them killing off men as we speak. If you go Palestine today, you're going to find an abundance of woman to man because them even though it's a short war, the amount of people dead in that war because of the use. One side I use plane and the next side I use gunshot and slingshot. So only in very rare situation you find that the numbers are so disproportionate. So I just have to say that my position is basic, that this has been for me, enlightening and interesting conversation because all kind of other things come in. Polygamy come in. Me only take on what me can manage. Me not take on polygamy. Me not take on all them other things because we have to focus on what is the primary issue. And the primary issue in Jamaica is the abuse of women. We not debate about that. Even if an organization defend other kind of rights, they are also helping the woman cause because abuse is at the worst place. The church, I don't even bother talk about the church because I agree with the people who say the church, oppress. It's years and years that the church show itself. Now, I don't, but I can't see it changing unless there is a role for the church. Just like how the church is oppressive in slavery, but also liberation at the end of slavery. So too the modern church is going to have to take a stand. That old position about that the Catholics take on, it can't last forever. Them have to change that. And them under pressure to change that. Either because the man them are run down the young boy, or because it causing disruption in the family and all this whole, that you're going to hold on to the Catholic faith over societal norms. That is where the contradiction comes. Just like we have in Jamaica all boys school. Even though the youth them grow up in the community, in the house with boy and girl, them have all boys school and all girls school. I never support no separation like that. But the church, the Anglican church come Jamaica, and when them colonize us, they set up the school like that. So you have all these all boy, George's a pure boy, JC a pure boy, and every day them run jump fence and go mix up with the girl them. That is how the reality go. We have to promote a healthy society, and for me that means in the long term we get rid of gender bias school, because society should live normal, right? But there are other things that I think we have to talk about, and that is education. Education is up, and I don't mean school education. I mean general education. It have to go, you have to go up on bugle top, church top, mountain top, and blow your bugle in regard to what are the basic rights. We should not allow music, entertainment to drag down women. We should stand up against it. I don't think this is right. It's one of the biggest headache we have in the society of Jamaica. And we have to find a way to engage with the artists, not lock them up or anything of that nature. Engage with them and show why it is useful, why it is helpful. They are what you call them? They are leaders in their own right, carry more weight than police and church. And you know, you have to find artists who promoting equality among men and women. Don't put down women. And therefore you help build. But there are many other things that we have to consider. And I just, these are the ones that stand out to me. I agree with those who say that Jamaica's situation is probably worse than most countries. I agree with that. I believe that to be so because there is so much manifestation of it in other areas of the society, in the music, in the way young girls from school, you know, coming home from school on the bus and all this. There's such a preponderance of it that is something we have to think about seriously and to see how we can speak to it, not by confronting leadership, but by educating, showing, you know, songs that generate, that promote a healthy relationship and so on. So those are my comments. I unfortunately have to run because I have somebody coming for me in about 2 or 3 minutes.
Don't run yet. Don't run as you.
Yeah.
Folks, it is clear that we face a major challenge in Jamaica that is going to require a major movement, a mass movement to address some of these issues. Now, we can go around and give some final comments from the panelists because we are now up on time. Usually we go every Sunday for 2 hours.
Yeah.
John, I'm not going to start with you. Yeah. So let's hear from the guest panelist. No. Sister Jennifer, some final words.
Jamaica definitely has a morality breakdown. And the probably only way to sort of deal with that is to we have to find a way to address this problem in that we probably schools are, because I don't see where we're going to meet to talk to the people about it except in schools. You know, or talk shows on the radio, on TV that deal with this issue at least once a month to keep hammering it into people's heads. But at the same time, with all this cost of living rise in Jamaica, I don't see how you're going to be able to stop young girls from dating older men whose pockets have some money in it.
Herb, you finished, Jennifer?
Yes, I'm finished.
Herb, let's hear from you. You have money in your pocket.
Well, when I go to Jamaica, make sure I go with empty pockets. I'm all right.
My friend went down with went down with his pocket outside.
Yeah, that makes sense. But listen, I know that, I don't know if you have a latest survey, but the survey in 2016 reported 15% of women experiencing sexual touching by a non-partner. 1 in 10 respondents had been forced to have sexual intercourse
This is
by,
Jamaica.
by a non-partner. 12% of women had men attempt to forcibly have sex with them. And 1/5 of Jamaican women reported being sexually abused before reaching 18 years old. Now, 18-year-olds back in 2016 are now what? 8 years later, right? So now they're 26.
Mhm.
So if that situation was never fixed, I started talking about the DNA lab. I know Betty Ann Blaine, when she was alive, she wanted the police commissioner, Anderson, to go to Jubilee Hospital or wherever these kids are being born, to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. The 16-year-old mean that they were raped before they turned 16, or they had sedentary rape, right? And run the DNA, to try and identify the fathers. And that's a big deal, because it happens when they go to the U.S. Embassy to migrate. The U.S. Embassy say, okay, you say your father is in the States. Yes. Who's your father? John Paul. All right. Here's we have John Paul's DNA when he went to the States. You go run this at our lab. They go to the lab and they run the DNA, and it turns out John Paul is not the father, right? Which brings up another problem. I think, other than France, Jamaica has the second highest amount of jackets in the world. And it is a very bad situation. So either way you look at it, the morality in Jamaica and everything that's happening with regards to interrelationships has broken down, probably mainly because the church has broken down. And then when you look at the communities now, we brought a program in 2016 to Jamaica called Safer Cities through Smarter Communities. In other words, you would rebuild your community to have various programs within the community, have core programs that allow
Finish already?
men and women to coexist and to raise their kids in a very safe space, right? And we say sports would have been the heart and soul of that development program. But until you can get the people like the army people and then the police and anybody else in authority, teachers or school staff, to participate in the community. When the kid leaves the school, we found out that the chances of being abused or killed outside the school rose exponentially. So we wanted the kids to have a cell phone that had a feature on it that would send out an SOS either back to the school or to the nearest police station. And we introduced that. But the government didn't want to enact that program. They came up with a bogus program where you call a phone number. We called a phone number in Jamaica, and nobody was there to answer the phone. Phone rang for 20 minutes, for 15 minutes. We couldn't get nobody to answer it. So we said, how can you have a program where you call an emergency and there's nobody at the other end?
Mm-hmm.
It probably get the person making a phone call killed for attempting to do that. And then you read about these kids that people enter their homes 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, kill them in their beds, or take them outside, cut off their heads, and dump them in the garbage can. It is a sad situation when you really get down and study the issue of child sex trafficking and child abuse in Jamaica, how bad it really is. And the government does not have enough money funded to this problem.
Herb, I think we need to dedicate a show to that topic about sex trafficking. Okay, so remember, let us talk about that. Maxine, give you some last word, no?
I was just looking at women economic empowerment as it's a mandate. Now, I understand it more precisely that it's, the United Nations, this issue is right across the globe, societies, the abuse of women in these, countries like ourselves that are seeking to come out of the colonial period. So I'm just, saying we just have to work on our economic development of women in particular, young women. And the other area which we may look at a program for this is how this turned into deadlift, how these behavior cuts off the generational wealth, meaning, once these behavior is not just what's happening when the man is around or the women or whatever, but when any of these people pass, there's no way to, like whatever you built, your companies or whatever it is, to pass it successfully on to your children or to the next generation. So I having been through some episodes myself, I would be very curious, especially like you go into administration general and see how much wealth of the nation is stuck up there because of this same man-woman problem.
On that note, I want to thank each and every one of you. Today was very informative, and I hope the listeners learned something. Sister Jennifer, you're welcome anytime. You let us know.
Thank you very much.
Maxine.
Happy to be here.
Yes, my sister. Happy to have you. Maxine, we need to schedule that discussion you talk about. Likewise, Herb, we look at these issues because these are burning issues, and now that we are going into the election, hopefully someone is listening and can put it on the agenda in Jamaica. The question of woman empowerment. So for the listeners, I hope you enjoy the discussion and you will like and share this podcast with your friends. And remember, we are here every Sunday at 4 o'clock. The Waterhouse Vibes. Thank you very much. And until such time, walk good and love one on each and every one.
And did you acknowledge that Marcus Garvey was pardoned today?
Yes, we did.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, Jennifer, did you go to the Alpha school system?
I went to
Yes.
Convent of Mercy Alpha. I graduated in 1971.
71. Yeah, my
Yeah.
sister went there, and but she graduated much earlier than you. She probably graduated 6 or 7.
Okay, that was way before my time. I was then in second form or so.
Yeah, she went through first and second form.
Okay, guys.
All right, bless.
Bless my one.
Oh, 1 second. Mikey,
Yeah.
you were asking about the Alpha Music School. The person who you should invite to talk about that is Margaret Wilson.
Or we need,
Margaret Little Wilson. She's the new administrator, and she has made it
Okay.
now a co-head music school. It's no longer Alpha Boys School.
if they can you send us some contact information?
Okay, I'll send it to
John.
John. So
Yes.
he pass
Okay.
it on to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
my dad is a graduate of Alpha before he went to the.
All right,
Jamaica
guys. We are still live. We are still live. So all the
Oh.
discussion for me now.
Right.